Hello, Pokebros. Welcome back to the channel. Last time on Ash's journey, he got a Dratini in the Safari Zone and defeated Koga, earning a 6th gym badge. During his gym battle, Charmander evolved into Charmeleon, becoming disobedient. Ash then lost the battle to Gary due to his disobedience. Then after finishing up with some excavation of fossils, Trio would set off to Cinnabar, which is where we pick up today. We would open with our trio on the beaches of Kanto. Ash, Brock, and Green would all be wondering how they were going to get to Cinnabar. While they were thinking, Ash would catch a glimpse of something out of the corner of his eye. He would see a group of sailors loading up a boat. Ash would then run over there, declaring that he had an idea. Brock and Green would follow, confused on what he meant. Ash would walk up to the captain of the boat. Ash would say, "Hello, Mr. Captain. I was wondering if me and my friends could catch a ride to Cinnabar on your boat?" The captain would then say, "Sorry, kid, but I'm not really in the ferry business." Ash would then say to the man, "How about this? If I beat you in a Pokemon battle, then you take me and my friends to Cinnabar. But if I lose, I'll leave you alone." The captain would accept, declaring that the battle would be a one-on-one. The captain would send out Golduck, and Ash would lead Tangela. Ash would call for a Vine Whip, and Tangela would do so, landing the attack. Golduck would be weakened by the attack, and would then retaliate with a Fury Swipes. Tangela would dodge the first 2 swipes, but would get hit by the last 3. Tangela would then go for a bind. Golduck would dodge, and the captain would order a confusion. The attack would land, knocking Tangela back. Tangela, now weakened, would charge up his new move, Solar Beam. Golduck would try to dodge, but the attack would land, taking Golduck out. The captain would then say, "Well, a deal is a deal. Welcome aboard, passengers." Ash, Brock, and Green would then all board the boat. We would then cut to our trio getting off the boat in Cinnabar. All of them would thank the captain. Brock and Green would then head to the Fossil Restoration Lab, while Ash would head for his gym battle. After arriving at the gym, Ash would discover that in order to challenge the gym, he had to find it first. A man would then come up to Ash, and he would give him a riddle to where the gym is. The man would say, "If you wish to find the gym, listen near and solve the riddle you're about to hear. When I blast my peak, I make craters. When I explode, the ground can jump. What am I?" Ash would think, and he'd be very confused. He would go to ask for another hint, but the man would disappear. Ash, very confused, would head to find Brock and Green. We would then cut to Brock and Green handing their fossils to a scientist. The scientist would tell them to come back in about a day. Just then, Ash would come barging in. Brock and Green would ask if he had already battled the gym leader, and Ash would explain how he couldn't even find the gym. Brock and Green would laugh at Ash's stupidity. They would then leave the lab. Now outside, Ash would tell them the riddle. Green would look at Ash and say, "Are you serious? You couldn't figure this out? It's obviously a volcano." Ash would look at Green, and he would thank her, running off for the volcano. Brock and Green would then follow. After entering the gym, Ash would see the gym leader Blaine. Blaine would introduce himself to Ash. Ash would say, "Wait, aren't you the guy who gave me the riddle before?" Blaine would act like he had no idea what Ash was talking about. Then Blaine would declare the battle will be a 4-on-4. Blaine would throw out Rapidash, while Ash would throw out Poliwhirl. Blaine would then call for a takedown, but Poliwhirl would dodge. Ash would then call for a water gun, and it would connect. Rapidash would then go for a fire blast. Poliwhirl would fire off a water gun, but it would get evaporated, letting Poliwhirl get hit. Ash would then call for a body slam, but Rapidash would charge in with a flame wheel. The attacks would collide with both Pokemon taking severe damage. Ash would then call for another water gun, but Poliwhirl would power it up, turning it into a hydro pump. Rapidash would be hit and would get knocked out. Blaine would then send out Ninetales. Blaine would call for a Hyper Beam. Poliwhirl would try to dodge, but he wouldn't be fast enough, being blasted by the attack. He would then retaliate with a Hydro Pump. However, Ninetales would go for a Dig, dodging the attack, then striking. Poliwhirl would get knocked down. While he was down, Ninetales would blast him with a Flamethrower. Seeing Poliwhirl weakened, Ash would switch to Pikachu. Blaine would call for another Dig, but Pikachu would dodge, striking with a Thunderbolt. The attack would land, doing good damage. Ninetales would then go for a Flamethrower. Pikachu would get hit, becoming burned. Ash would then call for a Quick Attack, and Pikachu would charge in. Blaine would also call for a Quick Attack, and the 2 Pokemon would meet in the middle. The attacks would collide, but only Pikachu would fall. Ash would then send in Haunter. Ash would call for a Shadow Ball, and Haunter would listen. The attack would land, knocking Ninetales back. Ash would order Haunter to follow up with a Shadow Punch, and Haunter would charge in, striking Ninetales while she was stunned. taking her out. Next out for Blaine would be Arcanine. Blaine would call for a Fire Blast, and the attack would land, knocking Haunter back. Ash would then call for a Shadow Ball, and Haunter would fire that attack off. Arcanine would dodge, then striking with a Flame Wheel. Haunter would get knocked down, and Arcanine would follow up with a Flamethrower, taking Haunter out. Then Ash would send Poliwhirl back in. Ash would call for a Hydro Pump, and the attack would land, knocking Arcanine back. Arcanine would then strike with an Extreme Speed, doing severe damage. Arcanine would charge in with another Extreme Speed, but Ash would order Poliwhirl to use Hydro Pump on the ground, blasting him into the sky. Ash would then call for a Hydro Pump from the sky, taking Arcanine out. Blaine would be impressed, but he would then say, "You've done well so far, but you're not prepared for my ace. Go, Magmar!" Blaine would then throw out Magmar, and the battle would begin. Ash would order a Body Slam from Poliwhirl, but Magmar would dodge, then strike him with a Thunder Punch. Poliwhirl would get knocked back. Ash would then call for a Hydro Pump. Magmar would dodge, again using another Thunder Punch. Blaine would then call for a Smoke Screen. Poliwhirl would be blinded. Magmar would sneak attack Poliwhirl, striking with a Thunder Punch, taking him out. Last out for Ash would be Charmeleon. Ash would call for a Slash, but Charmeleon would ignore him, charging him with a Seismic Toss. Blaine would then call for a Thunder Punch. Ash would tell Charmeleon to dodge, but he would get hit head-on. Magmar would then go for a Mega Punch. Ash would order Charmeleon to dodge, but again, Charmeleon would get hit. Ash would then call for a Flamethrower, but Charmeleon would go for a Slash. Magmar would easily dodge, then strike him with a Mega Punch, sending Charmeleon flying. Charmeleon would hit the ground hard, and Ash would run over to see if he was okay. Charmeleon would then blast Ash with a Flamethrower. Ash was now very angry. Brock would see that. Ash would then call for a Seismic Toss. Charmeleon would charge in with a Slash. However, this time, instead of dodging, Magmar would grab Charmeleon, then throwing him off the battlefield into the lava. Ash would scream in terror. He would dash over to see if Charmeleon was okay. Luckily for Ash, Charmeleon had landed on rock. Despite that, he was still in critical condition. Ash would recall Charmeleon. Before Ash could head to the Pokémon Center, Blaine would approach him. Blaine would then scold Ash, telling him that he will not accept his challenge until his Charmeleon will listen to him. Ash would then leave in defeat. We would then pick up at the Pokémon Center, with Ash sitting by Charmeleon's bed. Brock and Green would then enter the room. They would ask Ash if he was okay. Ash would say, "I'm fine. I'm just worried about Charmeleon. I shouldn't have let him get injured like that. It was stupid of me." Green would then say, "Ash, it's not your fault. Charmeleon wouldn't listen to you. There was nothing you could do." Ash would then say, "Even if Charmeleon won't listen to me, it's my responsibility to keep him safe." Charmeleon would hear this and would begin to feel bad. Ash would then leave the room to grab some food. After everyone leaves, Charmeleon would sit up in bed. He would then think back on his experiences with Ash, and how Ash truly never did anything to wrong him. After doing this inner reflection, Charmeleon would begin to think that maybe Ash isn't that bad. We would then cut to Ash, Brock, and Green eating dinner at the Pokémon Center. Ash and Brock would be discussing a strategy for Ash's rematch. While this was happening, Team Rocket would break into the Pokémon Center. They would attempt to steal Pikachu, except this time they would succeed since Ash, Brock, and Green's Pokémon were all getting healed up. But right before Team Rocket could get away, Charmeleon would come out of his room. Ash would be confused, but then Charmeleon would give him a look, and Ash would know that his friend was back. Ash would then say, "Hey, where do you think you're going? We've still got a battle to have." Jesse and James would laugh, since Ash only had Charmeleon, but they'd send out Arbok and Victory Bell either way. Victory Bell would fire off a Razor Leaf, while Arbok would go for a Sludge Bomb. Ash would order Charmeleon to dodge the Sludge Bomb, then burn out the leaves with a Flamethrower. Charmeleon would do so to perfection. Ash would then call for a Flamethrower, taking Victory Bell out. Jesse and James would be shocked with Charmeleon's strength. Jesse would then call for a bite from Arbok, but Charmeleon would dodge again. Ash would then tell Charmeleon to throw Arbok up in the sky with a Seismic Toss. Charmeleon would do so, then frying the Arbok with a Flamethrower. When she hits the ground, she would be fainted. Jesse and James would then run off. Ash would then hug Charmeleon, glad his friend was back. We would then pick up the next day, with Ash training on the beach with his team. However, his team would be a little different. At Brock's suggestion, Ash would have swapped Fearow for Dratini, since Dratini resists fire-type attacks. In the training, Ash would be working with Charmeleon to help him learn Dig. Ash and Charmeleon would train throughout the day. After they felt like they had mastered the move, Ash would head back to the gym. After arriving, Blaine would ask Ash if he had gained control over Charmeleon. Ash would let Charmeleon out of his bowl, and Blaine would be impressed. Blaine would then tell Ash that the rematch would be a one-on-one. This would make Ash feel a little dumb, since he had just made team adjustments for the fight, just for it to be a one-on-one. Despite this, Ash would be ready to battle. Ash would send in Charmeleon, while Blaine would send in Magmar. The two fire types would lock eyes, ready to brawl. Ash would call for a slash, while Blaine would call for a thunder punch. Both Pokemon would charge in, and both attacks would connect. Both trainers would then call for a flamethrower, and the attacks would collide, engulfing the battlefield in flames. Blaine would then call for a Mega Punch. Ash would tell Charmeleon to use a dig to dodge. Charmeleon would do so, avoiding the attack, then striking with super effective damage. Ash would then order Charmeleon to follow up with a slash. The attack would land, sending Magmar flying back. Blaine would then call for a smokescreen. Charmeleon would be blinded. Magmar would then charge in, uppercutting Charmeleon with a thunder punch. Charmeleon would be very weakened from the attack. However, Magmar would also be on his last legs. Both trainers would then call for their last moves. Charmeleon, use Slash. Magmar, use Mega Punch. Pokemon would charge at each other, readying their attacks. The two would meet in the middle. Both attacks would land, but only Magmar would fall. Ash would be ecstatic, running out to hug Charmeleon. However, Charmeleon would then begin to glow, and he would then evolve into Charizard. Ash would be beyond excited, and Blaine would congratulate Adam, giving him his Volcano badge. That's all for today, Pokebros. I hope you enjoyed. Today, Ash and Charmeleon finally started listening after getting whooped by Blaine's Magmar. In the rematch, Ash won using his Charmeleon, leading to his evolution into Charizard. And guys, there's probably only going to be 2, maybe 3 more episodes of this season. So I want you to comment down below what region you want me to rewrite next and what you would like to see as Ash's team. Also, comment any ways you think I can make my next region rewrite better. I'm always open to criticism. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Goodbye, Pokebros.